Hi, very good evening to all of you. So, today we are going to pick up a topic in PSIR Optional, which should be a key topic or a mother topic, which should mean that once we master that topic, we should be in a position to handle, manage, and operationalize, or very simple, to write answer in any area. So let us think, is it possible to figure out a central topic around which the entire syllabus of PSIR should be moving? Is it possible to figure out? In my opinion, it is possible. So what I have realized over a period of more than 1 decade engagement with this subject PSIR is that the topics in PSIR are quite overlapping. But more than that, there are some nucleus topics. If they are properly prepared, then it's very much possible that other topics could also be handled and their answer, whatever the question, can be written. So one such topic in PSIR is this one, ideologies. So in paper 1, section A, there is a topic called ideologies. If you could prepare that topic thoroughly, then in my understanding, you can write answer in other 9 topics also. So there are 10 or 11 topics under section A. Let us try to see. So this is the syllabus PSIR paper 1, Political Theory and Indian Politics. We have 10 topics: political theory, meaning and approaches, theories of state, liberal, neoliberal, Marxist, pluralist, post-colonial and feminist, justice, conceptions of justice with a special reference to Rawls' theory of justice and its communitarian critique, how communitarian thinkers have criticized John Rawls' theory of justice, equality, social, political and economic, the relationship between equality and freedom and affirmative action, rights, democracy, power, political ideology. So this is the topic number 8 that I am figuring out as the nucleus of not only section 1 of paper 1, but of entire PSIR. Because whether it is theory of a state, whether it is theory of theory itself, what is theory, what is power, what is right, what is equality, what is a state, what is sovereignty, all subjects are discussed, analyzed, assessed, evaluated from the point of view of ideologies. So, political ideologies: liberalism, socialism, Marxism, fascism, Gandhism and feminism. So, whichever theory you pick up, the perspective of theory is either liberalist or Marxist or feminist or fascist, or in some cases Gandhian also. So in the very making of political theory itself, although theories are supposed to be ideologically neutral, to claim that theories are neutral or scientific, so it is a minimum requirement that each theory should be ideologically neutral. But since every theory, other than its analysis, it also needs to prescribe some prescriptions, some values. So So despite the claim that theories should be neutral, all theories in political science are ideologically influenced, whether it is theory of state, or it is theory of justice, or it is theory of equality, or it is theory of power, or it is theory of democracy. All theories are influenced by this or that ideology. For example, if we take the theory of, say, justice. So John Rawls' theory of justice, even though it is claimed as a universal theory or as a scientific theory, but fact remains that Marxists would always criticize it as a liberalist or capitalist or bourgeoisie theory. So none of the theories are spared as ideologically neutral. At some or the other point, they are bound to be ideologically determined or ideologically influenced. For example, theory of political system, political system model. So David Easton said that political system which is ideologically neutral is a neutral model and it is not influenced by any ideology. And that is why they said that we should shift the focus from the study of a state, because the interpretation, the theory of a state is bound to be subjective, and that's why they decided to choose the study of political system, because they claim that the study of political system can be more scientific. The study of system in environmental science, in biology, in sociology, everywhere it is claimed as neutral and scientific. But Marxists argue that even the system theory, your system approach, your system model is not ideologically neutral. It is the product of American political system. And what is American political system? They said it is capitalist system. Correct? It proves that even the system theory is not ideologically neutral. So theory of equality, theory of justice, all theories are influenced by some or the other ideologies. They are influenced in their making. If they are not influenced in their making, then they are certainly influenced when they are criticized. For example, if there is a theory of representative democracy by liberals, then the Marxists would certainly criticize it as a capitalist theory. And that is why, in my opinion, ideology is the nucleus or the center of studying all theories and all the other related topics in political science. So whether we study topic number 1, theory. So theory from what? Perspective. What will matter is perspective, and perspective are ideological. यहाँ तो clearly mentioned है theory of a state. तो यहाँ तो already written है theory of a state means liberal theory, neoliberal theory, Marxist theory, pluralist theory, post-colonial theory, feminist theory. It makes clear that the theories of a state are ideological theories. So none of the theories are free from ideology. So the theory of a state is either a liberal theory of a state, or it is a Marxist theory of a state, or it is a feminist theory of a state, or it is pluralist theory of a state, or it is post-colonial theory of a state. So all theories are ideological theories, and that's why mastering ideology is the master skill of mastering PSIR. So once you mastered ideologies, which is the analytical framework in which all topics are to be dealt with, understood, analyzed, examined, evaluated, or critically evaluated. The framework is always ideological, either liberal, neoliberal, Marxist, socialist, feminist, and whatsoever, post-colonial and pluralist. The theory of a state is not a neutral theory of a state, it's ideological theory of state. Justice, conceptions of justice, but Rawls' theory of justice. So Rawls gave a theory of justice and where he claimed that I am going to give a scientific theory of justice, a universal theory of justice, a theory of justice which could be applied to any society. That is what he claimed and in the beginning. But ultimately, when it came to grasp and understand and apply the theory of justice propounded by Rawls, then it was found that the foundation of his theory was all liberalist, capitalist, bourgeoisie, whatever. And he was criticized on the same ground that although he claims that his theories are universally applicable and therefore scientific, but basically they were product of a liberal ecosystem, a liberal economic and political environment, and therefore more suitable and relevant to liberal societies, but can be imposed, not applied. So what Rawls said that they can be applied, the critics said they are being imposed. So there is no denial of the fact that the theory of justice as propounded by John Rawls is fundamentally the theory, the liberal theory of justice, being sought to extend it or to apply it, or what critics have said, imposed on non-liberal, non-Western societies. So John Rawls' theory, which appeared to be claimed to be based on neutral principle, but it is a liberal theory of justice, undoubtedly. Although John Rawls pretends that he himself is a critique of liberalism, he not only pretends, but he is quite convinced that he himself is not satisfied with the Benthamite or utilitarian idea of justice. So he starts with the criticism of Bentham's utilitarianism, and in this way he also criticizes a great part of liberalism, but overall treatment of his theory, because what he says that liberty is uncompromisable for justice and each individual deserves maximum liberty, because liberty itself is justice. But Marxist and other ideological theorists would argue that liberty is a bourgeoisie or a capitalist concept. With liberty you cannot reach justice, but the very first principle of John Rawls' theory of justice is that without maximum liberty to each individual, there can't be justice. Although there are other principles like difference principle, matlab, those who are poorer or more deprived, they do deserve some discriminatory or affirmative treatment. They do deserve some special treatment that may be in the form of affirmative action, reservation, etc. But there is no compromise with the first principle, and the first principle is liberty itself is justice, because in the absence of liberty you can't imagine of justice. Liberty is lost. The capacity to decide what is just to the individual is lost. So only he argues, John Rawls argues, only in the presence of prior guarantee to maximum liberty to each individual we can proceed towards justice. Correct? And then he says that there shouldn't be equality of outcome, only opportunities should be based on equality. So there are three principles, but a deeper analysis of these three principles of justice. What are these three principles of justice? One, maximum liberty, liberty to each individual. Second, equality of opportunity, but not of outcome. Matlab, the legally and morally acquired property cannot be given away to others. तो आउटकम का इक्वालिटी नहीं होगा, इक्वालिटी ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटी होगा, so that everyone should prove that they are capable of acquisition. This is a merit-based acquisition, not a freebie, not a giving away, not a free fund. Third, difference principle. Those who have more, who are known as haves in Marxism, they must share a part of their wealth or property with the have-nots. And in the interest of have-nots, the properties and the wealth of haves can be appropriated by a neutral agency, that is a state, to serve the interest of have-nots. Difference principle, distributive justice, fundamentally. If we take this as the three principles of justice, then it's very clear that despite the criticism of utilitarian liberalism, the overall tilt of John Rawls is in favor of or towards liberalism, isn't it? And that's why by communitarians, by feminists, and by Marxists more specifically, John Rawls was criticized ultimately as what? A liberal thinker or a liberal theorist, right? Similarly, just John Maynard Keynes, who is known as the father of welfarist economy, which ultimately evolved as a socialist mixed economy, but John Maynard Keynes is categorized or regarded as a liberal thinker, as a liberal economist. So you can see all theories are either liberal or Marxist or feminist. So what is most important in political science? To know what are these theoretical frameworks. Once you are clear about this theoretical framework, ideological framework, then everything becomes so easy. All theories are either liberal or Marxist or feminist or whatever. Equality. So these are the dimensions of equality: social, political, and economic. The relationship between equality and freedom, affirmative action. But when we come to the thinkers and theories of equality, then again we see some theories of equality are liberalist, some are Marxist. Although it was Marx who took the theory of equality at the highest ideological level of perfection, undoubtedly, because he said liberty is bogus, freedom is fake, justice is also irrelevant unless there is equality. So Marx and Marxists put entire or rather nucleus emphasis on equality, because they thought dignity is most important value in human life, and without equality there can't be dignity. And they thought liberty is more beneficial to the capitalist or middle class or bourgeois. So those who are already having some wealth, property and some possession, they need liberty to have some more, to acquire some more, to possess some more. But in such a society where there is already fundamental inequality, unless inequality is abolished, there is no concept, there is no idea of liberty to the people who belong to proletariat or industrial laborers or workers. So to them, liberty is not important. What is important is equality. That's why Marxism believes in the more importance of equality. On the other hand, liberalists would always say that equality comes after liberty. First, you need to have liberty because your action will automatically bring equality. But to act, you must have liberty. Can anyone act without liberty? No. So, what is prior? Liberty. So, liberal would say liberty is prior to equality, but socialist and especially Marxist would argue no, equality is prior to liberty, because without equality we can't proceed towards liberty. Equality brings, they believe, emancipation. So Marx and Marxists have argued that what we need is not liberty, what we need is emancipation. Emancipation, matlab, those who are have-nots are because of the control or exploitation of have-nots. So जिसके कंट्रोल में है या जो एक्सप्लॉइट कर रहा है उससे हमें लिबर्टी चाहिए या इमेंसिपेशन चाहिए, तो मार्क्स से इमेंसिपेशन चाहिए. So that's why the theories of equality are also ideological or ideologically categorized. They are either liberal theories or Marxist theory or communitarian theories, or feminists have also discussed in detail equality. The feminist idea of equality is a new dimension of equality, where they have argued that the equality is needed. I mean, they take political and legal and other constitutional equality measures for granted, but they believe that the real field of equality is family, private space. So unless there is gender equality in private space, that is within marriage and family, there can't be equality in society. So they see equality is primarily needed within family. The roles of male and female must be made equal in private sphere, in kitchen, in household, within homes, domestic sphere. Only then we can have equality. What do we find? Ultimately, all concepts and ideas and theories of equality are also ideological. They are either liberalist or they are Marxist or feminist or communitarian. So what is primary? What is more important to know? Ideologies. Again, we have theory of rights also. So right is also ideologically categorized. There is a liberal theory of ideology. For example, they would say the freedom of speech and expression, the freedom of association, freedom of assembly, and right to adult franchise, they are more important. On the other hand, there is another school, and that is basically an ideological school, Marxist. They will say social and economic rights are more important than political rights. So political rights से ज़्यादा important है social right and economic rights. So in the absence of social and economic right, there is no meaning of political right. This would be argued by the socialist and Marxist. So again we see that theory of right is also an ideological battlefield. So unless we are thorough about liberal concept of right and socialist, communist, Marxist perspective of right, and now you have again feminist perspective of right, And now we are seeing the environmental perspective of right, so ecological perspective of rights. So environmental rights or green rights, there is a full-fledged new ideology, environmentalism, yeah, deep ecology, yeah, ecofeminism. So theory of right is also ideological, so we need to master again ideologies. Concept of power. So traditionally the concept of power was given by elitist theory of power. So this elitist theory of power, like Pareto, Wilfred Pareto, during 18th, 19th century. Then you had Mosca. Then you had Robert Missel, and then you had one more, C. Wright Mills. Their theory of power is known as elitist theory of power, but Marxists would simply brand all this so-called elitist theory of power as bourgeoisie or capitalist or liberal, because ultimately they support status quoism. Ultimately they support the existing system. And what is existing system? That is capitalist system. So any theory or any thinker who support the existing system, status quoist system, they will be branded or labeled by Marxist as capitalist or bourgeoisie or liberalist. So all theories of power ultimately end up being labeled as what is elitist theory of power, would be branded or labeled by Marxists easily as liberal theory or capitalist theory of power. And then there would be feminist theory. So they would say that again all theories of power are elitist theory, and elitist theory are ultimately they are liberal theories. So again the theory of power and the hegemony and legitimacy are ideologically categorized or not? Yes. Now these two topics are different. और ये तो topic ही है ideology का, liberalism, socialism, Marxism, fascism, Kantism and feminism. तो इसमें तो हमें ये जानना है कि liberalism क्या है, कितने type का liberalism है. There are many types of liberalism. अलग अलग फेज में, अलग अलग टाइम में वो इवॉल्व हुए, कैसे इवॉल्व हुए, और हाउ इन डिफरेंट फेजेस देयर थियोरेटिकल इवोल्यूशन हैज टेकन प्लेस. तो उनका लिमिटेशंस क्या है. वैसे ही सोशलिज्म, मार्क्सिज्म, फासिज्म, कांतिज्म, इसमें एक जानना है कि इसके टाइप्स कितने हैं, दूसरा है इसका इवोल्यूशन कितना है, how has it evolved, and how different are there different theories of theory of state, yeah, theory of justice, equality, liberty, whatever. These two topics are different, or rather relatively free from AC Bandhu. They are political thought, Western political thought, and because they are pre-ideological, so thoughts came into existence when ideologies were not in existence. So first thing तो ये हो गया कि thoughts, political thoughts, ancient political thoughts mainly, वो तो ideology से पहले के हैं. Ideologies are modern phenomena. They are product of modernism. They are product of modernism. What is modernism? Science, technology, industrial revolution, urbanization, democracy. They are modernism. But the political thoughts है, especially ancient and medieval, you can see they are pre-ideological, मतलब आइडियोलॉजी से भी पहले ये आ चुके हैं. जैसे यहाँ पर धर्मशास्त्र, तो मनुस्मृति एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा, कौटिल्यास अर्थशास्त्र, ये तो आइडियोलॉजी से पहले है. It doesn't mean that ideologies did not exist in ancient time, but the context in which we use ideologies, they are modern. Liberalism, Marxism, etc. They are all modernism. They are all product of. They are different, but one thing is common amongst all of them, that they all are modern. So that's why it is said ideologies are a modernism phenomena, a product of modernism. They are all different manifestation of modernism. All ideologies are different manifestation of modernism. So you can see a lot of difference between liberalism and Marxism, but a seasoned brain can easily understand that both liberalism and Marxism are product of one particular time and climate, and the time and climate is modernism. दोनों में ही materialism है, दोनों में ही there is secularism है, दोनों में ही material things को तो matter centric world view है. Both are based on a materialistic cosmology. There is a materialistic cosmology in both. दोनों में ही there is science and rationalization. Rationalism and reasonability and reason is the common characteristic of both liberalism and Marxism. And that's why, despite their fundamental differences, rather it is called antagonistic differences. मतलब उनका वर्ल्ड व्यू भी डिफरेंट है, बट इतना डिफरेंस होने के बाद भी उनमें एक फंडामेंटल यूनिटी है, और वो फंडामेंटल यूनिटी है मॉडर्निज्म. एंड द सेम गोज फॉर फेमिनिज्म ऑल्सो. फेमिनिज्म इज ऑल्सो द प्रोडक्ट ऑफ मॉडर्निज्म. अगर मॉडर्निज्म ना हो तो देयर कुड बी नो फेमिनिज्म, एंड इट अप्लाइज टू ऑल द अदर. बट धर्मशास्त्र, अर्थशास्त्र, they are free from modernism. They are not secular. They are highly dharmic, not religious, but they are dharmic. So this is very difficult. Dharmashastra, Arthashastra, Buddhist tradition, they cannot be separated from dharmic idea, dharmic cosmology. And that's why they are pre-ideological. Even Sir Syed Ahmad Khan does not fit exactly in any ideological category, socialism or Marxist. He belongs to religious cosmology, Islamic cosmology. Sir Aurobindo, of course, he is deeply influenced by modernism, but he tries to bring about the synthesis as propounded by Swami Vivekananda of matter and spirit, matter and spirit. So on the one hand, he is influenced by ideologies, but he doesn't allow himself to be drowned in the ocean of modernist ideology, because he has the spirit of spiritualism. So he tries to, like his guru Swami Vivekananda, he tries to build the great synthesis proposed by Vivekananda of matter and spirituality. Matter and spirituality. That's why his idea of nationalism is a spiritual nationalism. It's not European materialistic political nationalism. It is spiritual nationalism. Gandhi, they all are indirectly influenced by ideologies, but they also have some traditional thought process, and that's why they don't exactly belong to one or the other ideological category. But M. N. Roy perfectly belongs to an ideological category. And despite his claim that he is a radical humanist, he is basically a Marxist humanist. He is a Marxist humanist. So he is deeply influenced. I mean, beyond recovery, he is influenced by Marxism, although he tries to repel the influences of Marxism and try to establish himself as a propounder of a new ideology which he calls radical humanism. But radical humanism is founded on Marxist humanism, even though there is a strong criticism of Marxism. Similarly, यहाँ तक तो सब ये Hobbes तक तो it's free from ideology. Locke is known as the father of liberalism. So Locke तो खुद ही liberalism का father ही है, because he said for the first time that right to property, right to life and personal liberty and right to personal liberty and life, they are uncompromisable. They can't be compromised. Even a state cannot take them away. Even a state cannot amend them, reduce them, deduce them, or reduce their impact by law. The state has been created rather to preserve and protect the natural rights. That's in individualism, and individualism is the foundation of liberalism. Since John Locke started with the happiness of individual as the foundation and developing to the level of guaranteeing right to property as natural right, that is why John Locke is regarded as the father of liberalism. And J.S. Mill expanded the scope of liberalism and added, and rather invented, the model of representative democracy, liberal political economy. और मार्क्स तो फादर ऑफ मार्क्सिज्म. तो यहाँ से लॉक ऑनवर्ड यू विल सी द इस ideology. The thinkers are either the father or proponent of certain ideology. Gramsci was a new Marxian, new type of Marxist. See, Hannah Arendt somehow is ideologically neutral, but that's again a pretension. She overall belongs to liberalism because she believes deeply in American system, and she openly says that she prefers American revolution and American political system because there is a space for democratic dissent, civic republicanism. So democracy, dissent, civic republicanism, these are all qualities of liberalism, and that's why she belongs to liberalism. So you can say the entire topic is related with ideology. अभी मैं यहीं तक रहता हूँ, इधर नहीं था. ये भी this is also ideologically determined. This is also ideologically evaluable. This is also ideologically accessible. इसका भी analysis और evaluation ideology के basis पर ही होता है. And now you go to second paper, that is international relation theory, और दूसरा part है India and the world. वहाँ भी comparative politics. Again there are theories. All these theories again they are ideological. Yeah, they are ideologically determined. All these topics are ideologically operated. It is ideology that operates them. If you are thorough about ideologies, you can manage them. Even if you know 30-40% about them, the rest of the work will be done by ideology. यहाँ पर भी while writing answer, the questions, the very nature of the question is ideologically tilted. The question somewhere would require you to take a stand ideologically. However, taking a stand doesn't mean taking a stand on the basis of ideology, but knowing the ideology, analyzing the ideology, but taking a conclusion which is accommodative of somehow all ideologies and not always drawing conclusion in favor of a particular ideology. That's the relevance of this topic. Which topic? This one. Political ideologies, liberalism, socialism, Marxism, fascism, Gandhism, and feminism. So let us try to know what are some of the important subjects in ideology, तो आइडियोलॉजी के अंदर क्या क्या क्वेश्चन है उसके अकॉर्डिंग वी विल ट्राई टू क्लासिफाई इट एंड टू डिसाइड व्हाट आर द तो एक तो ये है कि आइडियोलॉजी का मीनिंग क्या है और इसका डेफिनेशन क्या है. मीनिंग एंड डेफिनेशन ऑफ आइडियोलॉजी और फिर the key features of इसके क्या क्या features है ideology के. And then very early in 1955, 1958 and 1960 a debate started on the end of ideology. So we need to know what was the debate on end of ideology. So can we say ideology ended in 1960? No, ideology did not end with the debate on the end of ideology. Ideology was fully functional throughout the Cold War, which continued till 1991. What happened in 1991 was disintegration of USSR. So only with the disintegration of USSR, we can find some logic in the increasing irrelevance of ideology. Although we can't even today say that ideologies are irrelevant or have disappeared, but certainly ideological debate has, we can say, transmogrified या transformed or transmuted, मतलब change हो गया. Ideology are still functional, but transformed version change हो गया. Ideologies are not in the categories like exactly liberalism and Marxism, because there is a lot of mixing between liberalism and Marxism to be known as left liberalism, and on the other hand there is a lot of mixing between liberalism and right wingism. So that is known, that's presently being known as right wing. So ideologies are still working, but their nature has changed. So we need to know about end of ideology debate. There were some 7-8 main theorist thinker who participated in this debate. We need to know about their key points. Why did they say, or why did they believe that ideology is coming to an end? Even while the ideological clash between US and USSR was rising day by day. So on the other hand, there was nearing peak of ideological clash. Cold War was reaching at its peak. But this debate started. आइडियोलॉजी का एंड हो गया. तो वो कौन सी चीजें हैं जिसने आइडियोलॉजी के एंड डिबेट को प्रमोट किया? is what frequently the questions have been asked. And then the next is the impact of this debate थियोरीज के ऊपर या थियोरी मेकिंग के ऊपर इस डिबेट का क्या इम्पैक्ट हुआ. ये तो सिर्फ इंट्रोडक्शन है, बट द रियल सब्जेक्ट इज व्हाट इज लिबरलिज्म, व्हाट इज socialism, what is Marxism, what is feminism, fascism, etc. I will end this class with a brief discussion on liberalism. It is not possible to accommodate all the topics in one class. So therefore, I would wrap up this class with a brief treatment of one mega ideology that is liberalism. So, लिबरलिज्म को हम कैसे ग्रास्प कर सकते हैं एक फ्रेमवर्क में अगर करना हो तो. So, we would have to understand what is the foundation of liberalism. So the foundation of liberalism is no individualism, no liberalism, because liberalism says that individual liberty is the end objective of human life. It starts with individuals. It ends at individual happiness. And in between it creates an institution that is a state. So state comes into existence to guarantee the happiness of individual, and the power of a state ends at the happiness of state. All individuals happy and satisfied, the society is happy and satisfied, the world is happy and satisfied. Individual happiness, individual. What were the factors, reasons which created individualism? Then we'll see, without Renaissance, it would not have been possible. Scientific revolution, industrial revolution, and finally democracy. So once you have a properly founded and evolved individualism, then you are ready for the launch of liberal theories, liberal precepts, liberal principles, which together constitute a system or a cosmos of ideas, and that cosmos of ideas is ideology of liberalism. Each ideology is a system of thoughts, ideas, opinions, views. They are so structured, they are so systematic, they are so interrelated that they constitute in themselves a world. So ideologies are world of ideas. They are organically interlinked. If you touch one idea, then you will be forced or encouraged or to compelled to touch another idea, and therefore An ideology is a world of or a house of ideas, economic, social, cultural, literary, all aspects of life are interrelated in one particular ideology. So अब हम next देखते हैं कि the main thinkers, who are the main thinkers? So as I told, John Locke is the father. But before John Locke, Thomas Hobbes, of course, is the father of individualism. Without individualism, there wouldn't have been liberalism. John Locke is the father of liberalism, but Thomas Hobbes is the father of individualism. Mills मतलब James Mill and his son J.S. Mill. These are all political liberalism, thinkers of political liberalism. We have economic liberalism, we have social liberalism. So at least three dimensions, three areas of liberalism are very clear. Political liberalism. These thinkers created the foundation of political liberalism. But we also have economic liberalism, laissez-faire or natural right to property or non-intervention by state in economic activities and market forces, that's known as free hand or invisible hand to be given to market forces, which are demand and supply. So Adam Smith, Ricardo, Malthus, Marshall and series of economists up to Great Depression. तो जब तक ग्रेट डिप्रेशन आ नहीं जाता, majority of the economists were classical liberal economists, known as classical liberal economist. So now next, तो dimensions क्या है? Dimensions of liberalism. So as I said, the dimension of liberalism are of course political liberalism. ये political liberalism. We have economic liberalism, classical economic. The first phase of economic liberals are known as classical economic thinkers. So as I said, Adam Smith, Ricardo, Malthus, etc. And social liberalism, male and female, minority and majority, equality between them. Then we have stages of liberalism. So what are the stages of liberalism? The first phase is the classical liberalism, Adam Smith, etc., John Locke. Then there is an interregnum, welfare state, welfare economy. After Great Depression, 1929 onwards, 1930 onwards, 1935, John Maynard Keynes. Although John Maynard Keynes' economics is known as the departure from classical liberalism and opening into a new branch of economics, that's welfarist economy. This became the foundation of socialist economy. But all theories of John Maynard Keynes are basically absorbed, digested, accommodated within the great liberal framework of Ricardo and Adam Smith. And that's how somehow John Maynard Keynes is absorbed into, digested within the big fat of the big body of liberalism. So it appears that welfarism is separate, but basically welfarism is very much part of classical liberalism. It is welfarism that saved capitalism. Instead of welfarism being rival and competitive and an enemy to and hostile to capitalism, rather welfarism went step further to sustain, strengthen capitalism and ensure its continuity and survival. But a reaction emerged against welfarism in 1950s in the form of the neoliberals. In 1955 onwards, the Austrian economist A.F. Hayek and German economist Robert Nozick, and then American economist Milton Friedman, their economic principles came to dominate American economy, planning economy, thinking, and the policies mainly of their federal bank, that is central bank. And it had its impact on world also later or sooner. In 1970s, Margaret Thatcher, who was a liberal party leader, conservative party leader, she properly inaugurated new liberalism. And from Britain it went to America, Reaganism. So Thatcherism in 70s in England and Reaganism in US. So Reaganism was also extension of Milton Friedman's views in economics. So these are the three phases of liberalism. इनको डिटेल में पढ़ते हैं. इन थियोरीज का क्या इम्पैक्ट हुआ स्टेट के ऊपर, स्टेट का फंक्शन, स्टेट का नेचर कैसे चेंज हुआ. So this is the subject matter of liberalism. There are some key principles of liberalism, like individualism is the foundation of liberalism. Tolerance, democracy, respect for diversity and pluralism, individual fulfillment, individual self-actualization, democracy, universal franchise. These are all core values of liberalism. And there is a theory of, liberal theory of a state, which believes that a state is a neutral umpire, a neutral watchdog, trying to maintain a balance between the haves and have-nots through the policy of progressive taxation based on distributive justice, taking the surplus wealth from the haves and distributing the same amongst have-nots. Distributive justice, watchdog, maintainer of tolerance, preserver of different views, pluralities. So these are the, and liberalism believes that the role of a state is not much exaggerated. The role of a state should be confined to security, life की security, territorial security, integrity, internal security, external security, food security, cyber security, privacy security. But business में state को बहुत ज़्यादा interfere नहीं करना चाहिए, because business is related with individual choice. Nature has given individuals natural right to property. If a state interferes too much into choices, their professional and occupational choices, then the individual natural right to property would be violated, and that's why the state should keep itself minimum into economics and business. So broadly it should be left to invisible hand. What is invisible hand? That is demand and supply. बट इसका प्रॉब्लम ये हुआ कि इस पॉलिसी को फॉलो करते 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 प्राइवेट प्रॉपर्टी का इतना कॉन्सेंट्रेशन हुआ, ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी बन गई, कॉलोनियलिज्म हो गया, इंडिया ब्रिटेन का गुलाम बन गया और एम्पीरियलिज्म आ गया, कॉलोनियलिज्म से एम्पीरियलिज्म आ गया, एम्पीरियलिज्म से फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर हुआ, सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर हुआ, ग्रेट डिप्रेशन हुआ. तो these are all extension of free economy, these are all extension of free market, these are all extension of invisible hand. John Maynard Keynes singularly pointed to invisible hand theory of Adam Smith as the main reason behind First World War, Second World War and Great Depression. Invisible hand. And that's why he assigned a new role to state, and the new role assigned to state by John Maynard Keynes, that welfarist state, was that the state should not be mute spectator to invisible hand. The state must decisively intervene in economic processes, in market processes, in invisible hand. The state should promote the demand, the state should control the supply. Only then there would be protection from depression. The only way the depression and recession could be avoided and prevented is the state being not a mute spectator of whatever is happening, but rather decisive intervener in invisible hand. Don't leave the economic processes to demand and supply, rather to make a decisive interference. Control the demand. If it is going down, strengthen it. If the supply is less, then strengthen supply. If supply is too much, then control the supply. So state has a very powerful, positive role in economic activities rather than remaining mute spectator to invisible hand. So with these ideas of welfarism, capitalism survived. Capitalism didn't make the way or didn't allow itself to be replaced by welfarism. Rather, capitalism, by learning all these things, accommodating all these safeguards within its body, resurrected itself, re-christianed itself and re-emerged. And then it reappeared in the form of neoliberalism. So, आज के लिए इतना ही. अभी इसको यहीं पर एंड करते हैं, बाकी नेक्स्ट क्लास में डिस्कस करूंगा. थैंक यू.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.